The Fountain of Youth. On the top of a high hill sat a small wooden house. The Legend of William Tell. William Tell was as good a man as ever there was. He lived a simple, honest life in the hills of northern Switzerland with his wife and young son Pip. One day, quite by accident, William Tell found himself in a moment that changed the lives of many around him. William's skill with a crossbow was legendary, and he would put it to good use, hunting wild animals and birds, which he would sell to the butcher in the small valley town of Altdorf. I should mention that Switzerland was ruled at that time by a man named Herr Gessler. He was not liked by the people, for he cared for no one but himself. Gessler did everything in his power to become richer and richer, while the hard-working people struggled to put food on their tables. One morning, William Tell and young Pip were visiting the town after a long night's hunting. They had sold 5 pheasants, 3 rabbits, and a deer to Herr Schloss the butcher, and were travelling back home when they saw soldiers putting up a statue of Herr Gessler in the town square. "What are they doing, father?" asked Pip. William shook his head. "Big statue, tiny man." Pip didn't really understand what this meant. "So why are they putting it there?" he asked. "There's no good place for it," said William, looking down at his son. "Pip, you will learn that there are good and bad men in this world. The ones you can trust don't have statues of themselves in the town square." Some of the soldiers overheard William talking and called out angrily, "You there, huntsman! Show some respect!" William Tell stared back. "Speak, huntsman," said the soldier, squaring up to William. "What say you?" "I have nothing to say," said William. He had seen soldiers like this before, and he didn't want any trouble, but he was never one to back down from a bully. At that moment, the sound of drums and pipes echoed through the square, and more soldiers entered and pushed the crowds back. A whisper of "Gessler" was heard in the crowd, and then, to William and Pip's surprise, there he was himself, Herr Gessler, a tiny man on horseback, surrounded by his personal guards. He had come to see the unveiling of his new statue, and the soldiers ordered the people to clap. "He's much smaller in real life," said Pip. "That he is, young Pip," replied William, smiling and patting his son on the head. Then, as Gessler sat there on horseback, each man, woman, and child was lined up to bow down in front of the statue before being led away. Sure enough, William Tell and his son Pip were put in line and led towards the statue. When they reached the front, a large soldier shouted orders. "Bow to your leader!" Pip was about to do as he was told when his father stopped him and shook his head. "We do not bow to this tyrant. Not now, not ever." The guard could not believe his ears and stuck his sword in William's face. But William stood tall and shook his head. The soldier called out to Herr Gessler, and the town square fell silent. Most of them knew and cared for William, as he was a good man. The guards stared in anger at this man who refused to obey. "Herr Gessler!" shouted the soldier, standing in front of William Tell. "Your Honour, the huntsman, he refuses to bow!" Gessler kicked his heels into the horse's belly and cantered forwards. He looked at William and his son. "A rebel, eh?" said Gessler, smiling. "I know how to deal with your sort." He held the horse's reins with one hand and pointed at William with the other. "Huntsman, "Are you good with the arrow?" asked Gessler with a wry smile. "Let's see how good you really are," he said, taking an apple from his saddlebag and throwing it to the soldiers who were holding Pip. "Place this on the boy's head." Then Gessler turned to William Tell. "Shoot this apple off your child's head and you will go free." "I am already free," said William Tell, and the townspeople laughed and cheered. No one had ever stood up to Gessler so boldly. "Refuse, and you and your son will die by my soldiers' swords." Pip's safety was the most important thing to William, so without another word he picked up his crossbow and 2 arrows. He placed one arrow in the crossbow and held the other in his teeth. He looked at Pip and nodded. Pip stared back at his father as the soldiers balanced the apple on his head. He trusted his father's aim and knew that as long as he did not move, his father would make the shot. The square fell silent. William Tell took aim, took a deep breath, and fired. The apple split cleanly in 2, harming not a hair on young Pip's head, and the townspeople burst into applause and cheers. "Huntsman, what is your name?" shouted Gessler. "My name is Tell. William Tell." "Well, Master Tell, I have given my word to spare you, but next time you may not be so lucky." William called his son over to his side, and they started to walk away. "Wait!" shouted Herr Gessler, steering his horse through the crowd to where William was standing. "You took out 2 arrows, huntsman. Why?" William Tell stared up at Gessler and answered without blinking. "The first arrow was for the apple. The second was for you if you or your men harmed my son." Silence fell once more. Gessler wanted to strike William down right there where he stood, but he had given his word in front of a whole town. William Tell and Pip disappeared into the crowd. News spread fast among the people about how a brave huntsman had stood up to the most powerful man in all of Switzerland. Some say that William Tell's second arrow did find its mark at another time, but we mustn't believe all we hear, though some of it may be true. One thing is certain, bullies can only be bullies if we let them get away with it. Doing the right thing and standing up for what is right can change the way people think.